stuff that came out. There's additional treatment that takes place, so we have to connect those wells. Is kind of what's driving some of that. Then last year, we initiated a survey. We had a letter during that time. They came out, there was a bunch of flags in your yard. There might have been some paint in your yard. That's where our surveyor that we contracted with was picking up the information so we could actually complete the design. And then we also had, you may have seen them, may have not. They were here pretty briefly. American Engineering Testing, they came in and did some drilling along the road just to see what the soils are like underneath the pavement. So in regards to Bloedel Avenue, the whole section of Bloedel Ave that we're addressing here, which some of you may have saw here, we have two printouts, which you'll get to see here. If you haven't already, we have one here and here. Both are the exact same. If you need help finding your property, just let us know. But the impacted side streets would be Pine Park at the end. Not all of it is going to be impacted on the side streets. It's going to be mainly within 100 feet or so of the intersection, just to tie stuff back in. So we have Pine Park, Cherry, Willow, and Alderson. And then that also then includes the existing sidewalk that extends between Bloedel to County Park. And then well number 1, which no work is going to be done at the wells. It's more of just providing that connection between them. So, like I said, Ed mentioned briefly, that's the plan here, just so we can look at that later. And then the phasing, how these projects are typically, how they kind of progress through. At the get-go, they start earth removal. So we got to get down to the earth and get down to the utilities. Utilities are usually the first thing that get addressed if they're on the project. In this case, we have water and sewer that need to be addressed. They have, on your street, it's AC water main. So it was put in around the 50s and 60s. And what we've found here in the village, which about 30%, 20% of our village has it still, or is it 10 now?
We're about 10%
now. 10% of the village still has this pipe, but around the 60-year mark, which we're right there, the pipe really starts getting more brittle. It had a life expectancy of more than that initially, but what we're finding is AC water main tends to break, and the sanitary sewer on the street is also AC. So we're looking to replace that with new PVC, so that should be much more durable and last much, much longer. The whole intent of these projects is once the reconstruction project comes through, there might be some superficial work done to the pavement because that doesn't last as long, but the utilities should be 80 to 100 years. Like, we shouldn't be back there ripping up the ground going underneath. Again, so the pavement itself is like half that, 30, 40 years. So then the other item that we'll have on this one are once we get done with the utilities, are going to be the vehicle and pedestrian accommodations. So we have street pavement, the concrete shoulder, which you can kind of see in some of these photos of another local street project that was done here in Weston, and then sidewalk on one side. And then we have our grading restoration. So that's the very last step. Everything gets graded and blended back in. A layer of topsoil goes down, seed fertilizer, and everything starts tying in and growing back. So essentially for the project schedule, we're looking at finishing the design here in the next month, getting it out to bid for contractors in March and opening those bids in April so that we can start initiating construction in May or June and have it done by the October month. With it being the street and all the utilities, they tend to be a little longer. If we didn't have utility work, those projects are usually a month or so shorter. But with the underground work, that's what kind of drags it out a little bit longer. This is just tentative. This is kind of the big picture of how it goes. The contractor, if they're really pushing, they can probably get done earlier than October. If there's hiccups or something that's unforeseen, that might delay them. Another thing that's always unforeseen is weather. If that happens, that could push it definitely into the later month there. So for special assessments, it's kind of just a little bit of a background here. Every community does these differently. Essentially, or I guess traditionally, the way assessments were, people that were along that street, they got assessed for good majority of the work that was being done. Community here for Weston changed that back in, I think it was
2018.
2018, 2019
Yeah.
timeframe. We started pulling that off. So essentially, the community as a whole pulls capital improvement funds to to improve our infrastructure for the entire community. It's not just you using your street. There are other people using that. So kind of the viewpoint has changed for Weston and how we're assessing property owners on these projects. So
I guess just for reference, so like when, if anyone's familiar with the Newport Ave project from 2012, the average assessment for a property owner there was close to $10,000 per property. You know, as this kind of shows, the only assessment that we have on this project would be your driveway approach, just because it's your access point. It's different than if it was just a grass swale, and that likely would be around maybe $1,000. So it's a tenth of what it would have been if this street was reconstructed 10 years ago, similar to like when Newport was, so.
and then you're not expected to pay that right away. Once the
Correct.
project's complete, you have 10 years to pay back that amount. So it's a much smaller amount and you get a decent amount of time to pay back that.
Yeah, so, and we'll have that, an assessment meeting once kind of bids are in and we have actual project costs. So that'd be another one in that timeline of probably that April, May timeframe. Yep.
I guess while we're on this slide, does anyone have any questions about the special assessment? We kind of summarized it pretty quick there, but. Yeah, it's mainly just your driveway approach. If you had two of them, you'd be assessed for both of them, unless you plan during this project to eliminate one. I don't know if anyone. Yeah, there was one property that had two, I think. Yeah.
How does the sidewalk, if there's only a sidewalk on one side, is it not the only available or the two property owners on both sides?
The sidewalk is not assessed.
We aren't assessed no one's being assessed for sidewalk.
Yeah.
So, and then I guess I can backstep a little bit, I guess, with the sidewalk discussion. A couple different alternatives for the sidewalk. So the way our code is written, we should, with our improvement projects, we're reassessing. Okay, every single project, it gets reassessed for pedestrian accommodations. We have people that in the community don't have cars or choose not to drive, whatever the reason may be. These are to provide accommodations for those individuals. Otherwise, other people were driving and deny that fact. So every single project, whether it's new or it's been there forever and we've never had sidewalk, it's still, when it comes for reconstruction, will be reassessed or reevaluate, I'm sorry, for sidewalk or not. Like I mentioned earlier, these projects, we're not coming back to do any kind of major reconstruction on this street. I'll probably be dead at that point. Like, I will not be around at that point. So when we're doing these projects, it's a one and it's on to the next person when that time finally comes again. So the number of families that might come through that neighborhood, maybe they want sidewalk, maybe they don't. They're moving to that neighborhood, whether it has sidewalk or not, that's their choice at that time. So we try to be as forward thinking as possible and trying to put the infrastructure in there at the time when we're doing it, because we're not going to come back to do that until stuff is finally starting to fail again, where we need full reconstruction.
Property owners there don't want the sidewalk, you guys are still gonna do it, is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily, no, because if the say local community for that street does not want that, as holistically does not want that, we've had other neighborhoods do that. They come to a board meeting and say we don't want it, and it gets.
And when will that board meeting be?
Well, we have monthly board meetings. I guess it would be the group as a whole on the street trying to, I don't know how that.
Yeah, several years ago, we had a neighborhood where there was a petition brought to the board to not include sidewalk on the project, and it was up to the board to either keep it in the project or not, and on that one, the sidewalk ended up being removed from the project. From a design standpoint, if we design a project without sidewalk, it's a lot easier to remove something after, once it's designed versus trying to add something in after the fact. So we design it to the full extent, and I guess if there is ever a desire to change that, it is up to you guys as the citizens to present that to the board and ask them to do something different, so.
Yeah, it went, the options for sidewalk on both sides, one side, no sides, went in front of Public Works and Utilities Committee. They voted and discussed on it at that meeting and then voted. It was, for Bloedel, it was that meeting.
Yeah.
Decided to proceed with at least providing at least one accommodation on one side for residents along the corridor. Or anyone passing through that corridor. So.
You were talking about the driveways. I live at the intersection of Pine Park and Bloedel, but I'm on the west side of Pine Park 602. My driveway is just slightly to the south of where Bloedel joins Pine Park. Will this reconstruction affect my driveway at all?
No,
You're on Pine Park?
Yeah, 56.
he's on the west side.
The driveway itself is on.
Yeah, we don't show anything impacting your driveway.
That's south.
Yeah, this is my driveway right here.
Oh, no, it would just, we're essentially matching back in the asphalt. When we actually do work on Pine Park would be, I guess, the more I guess, more similar to what you'd be seeing here on Flint. So nothing will be changing too much on that part, other than you'll see a definitive line of pavements on the other between. We aren't putting any concrete or anything on Pine Park until that project goes. So I think we're going to go from there.
Okay, so the sidewalk would run from Alderson all the way down to Pine Park?
Correct.
Okay, what about if there's trees all the way down? What's gonna happen to those trees? Are they gonna all get ripped out? How's that gonna work?
So sidewalk, we're doing everything within the existing right of way when it comes to the physical improvements. So the sidewalk would be within the public right of way, which I think was 50 feet on this stretch. A lot of the other roads we have are 60 or 66 feet of right of way. We only have 50 here, so. Yes, any trees that are in conflict with the sidewalk or even the ditch necessarily, because if the roots are coming into the ditch, we could try to leave the tree there, but every tree kind of responds a little differently to damage to the roots. So if they are sticking out, usually those trees that are impacted root wise end up having to come out even if they are a little beyond. We are planning to put in, I don't remember what you call them, but project trees. So like if there's a tree in particular that ends up having to come out as a result of the improvements on the road, we could give you a tree to substitute in for that. It won't be as big or, the same size as that, but in some time it would be. It's just because of the drainage improvements. I drove through there a couple of weeks ago when everything was starting to melt, everything was still frozen. And I see how the flooding is operating in that. So the drainage improvements are trying to help that. It's not just a sidewalk that would take out the tree roots, it's also any of the drainage improvements right along that right of way line.
So before you take those trees out, are you gonna go to properties that have the trees that would be in question and talk to those particular property owners and say, hey, we have to take this tree and things like that? Or is this just an automatic thing?
No, when it comes to the tree on your property, that's your tree on your property. If the roots still are coming in right away and they get clipped, I mean, we can talk when that's happening. Otherwise, on these, I did put circles. They have a circle with an X on them. They're the trees that I'm anticipating potentially would be getting taken out based on the improvements. Just based on the size of the tree, the canopy, that we just kind of estimate that the root fall is about or the root extent is about as wide as that tree. And there's some big trees.
That's on that picture there where you.
Yeah, there's circles with X's through them. Those are the trees in particular that that I was thinking might get taken out as part of this, so.
I guess kind of to piggyback on that too, with new water and sewer lines going in, we have to dig down to connect those back to your laterals that go back to your house. And, you know, generally they're 7, 8 feet deep. So to get an excavation down to your water lateral, that sometimes will impact trees too. So it's irrelevant of sidewalk or anything else, just trying to get.
If you reconnect lateral out in the street, you're not gonna come into the side yard and go to the end of the lateral where the curb stops are and stuff, are you?
Yeah, we connected the curb stop because that same pipe that connects the main to the curb stop is also 60+ years old. So if we were to connect to that.
Doesn't matter if it's 60 years old. Another 200 years.
Not in my yard.
No, the copper starts to pit and we end up, a lot of times actually, when we have a main break in these areas, it's not actually the main. A lot of times it's the copper that actually fails over time. So it is the piping itself, not always at the main, but sometimes right at the lateral. Even the joint at the curb stop. So we replace the curb stop as a whole and the pipe all the way back to the main.
Yeah, and those curb stops are
Even
typically put
even
right
though I
on.
may have put those in within the last 15 years. I had to tap in and stuff when I built properties and stuff. And you're telling me that copper is gonna fail and stuff, is that what you're saying?
Well, so the lateral line from the curb stop to the main is owned by the Village of Weston. It's owned by Weston Utilities. So if we left it there and you know
I'm the one that put them in, yeah, one of the taps.
correct, yeah. So that is generally the
So they're yours now, I guess is what you're saying.
correct, yeah. So they're ours now. So if we say, okay, we won't replace yours, and then, you know, 40 years from now, yours fail, and nobody else is on the street fails, you know, that we try to keep it of the same era as best as you can, so that, you know, from this point forward, all of these were installed in 2026 and they should have a life expectancy to, you know, 2096, roughly, you know, if we go 70 years out. Again, none of us likely are going to be here in 2096, but that is what we try to do, is make it so that underground work is replaced and it's good to go for the next, 60, 70 years. And the only work on the street then is maybe some new pavement, you know, 30, 40 years down the line, and it's a quick 1-week project and it's not a full disruption to the rest of the neighborhood.
So are we talking the curb stop to the house?
No, so from the curb stop to the house, that is everybody's private lateral.
What has or how's it handled if the private part of the lateral, driveway, et cetera, are damaged in this process?
So if the driveway or any yard is disturbed, that gets restored back. So if your curb stop happens to be in the driveway, whatever portion of the driveway that has to be excavated, that concrete, asphalt, whatever it may be, is put back at the village's cost.
What about the private lateral that you have to hook to?
Yep.
I think you might have said if there's part of that gets.
That's what I was, is that part of, if that would, might say that part of that was broke or that's being reconnected, is that still part of?
Yeah, I mean, if the contractor damages the existing private lateral, they would be responsible for replacing that, but. But yeah, so the water and sewer laterals get replaced all the way back through the right of way, so. You know, hopefully we don't have to dig up the road if something were to happen to that. Any other questions?
Oh, yeah.
All right, perfect.
Plenty of them. With these wells more or less merging together, something like that, are we gonna get a better quality of water? I mean, we get the black all the time, and, you know, not only in the toilets, but in the showers and everything.
Yep.
And it's disgusting, and, I mean, we don't even drink our water because
You should.
of that.
you should-
So where, is this gonna be helping this out?
Yeah, so these wells have, so the black is,
They're not running.
yeah, I'll get to that. Oh. So the black is the manganese, so the well on Bloedel in particular is high in manganese, so So we have, as part of our PFAS treatment, we have the 2 new wells that got built here on Camp Phillips. Our treatment plant is up and running with a filter, so it's PFAS-free water coming through there. So these 2 wells currently are turned off for the winter. They're not pumping to the system, and but that's not a long-term solution to keep the wells off. So that's why we would need to pump water, get the water line in from well 1 over to Bloedel, and then there'll be a future treatment plant put in at the Bloedel well site to remove the iron, manganese, and PFAS from the water so that it is a higher water quality for you guys in this area. So.
Is this project starting on one end and then gonna gradually go down, or is the whole thing gonna be ripped up at once, or?
That's generally up to the general contractor. Does all sanitary go one way?
Yeah, it all goes to Pine Park.
Yeah, so
And it
they'll
goes
likely
with
start
the
at
100
Pine
feet
Park.
of owners, yeah.
Yeah, so they'll likely start at Pine Park and head east. They may want to try to phase it maybe at the sidewalk crossing, or, near Cherry Street, just so they can get that that kind of western portion done. But I guess that'd be a discussion once it's bid out and there's a contractor selected as far as how they would maintain that. It is a requirement that contractors always keep roadways passable for residents and, ambulances, fire trucks, things like that need to get in and out. So access to places is, I guess, available to the maximum extent practical. If they're installing a new sewer line in front of your house and they're 10 feet deep, it might not be possible that one day to have access to your driveway, but we make it so they have to backfill that and get you access by the end of the day, so you can still get in and out. Does that answer the question? Garbage, stuff like that. We'll have another meeting before construction, kind of going over those items as well, as far as where your mail may be located or how garbage recycling gets picked up. So it is construction though. There is destruction before the new, but.
So being that the sidewalk is going on the north side, that's where all the mailboxes are also, so whose responsibility to set all the mailboxes again?
That'd be the contractor's
That's-
responsibility.
Yeah, so right at the beginning of the project, more than likely, just so that they don't damage the mailboxes, they'll pull them. And the postal service kind of dictates where temporary mailboxes will go. We don't have a say, contractor doesn't have a say. So the postmaster tells us exactly what they want for their delivery representative for that street. So the contractor typically pulls them, they'll set them up next to the house so that they're by your property, they're protected away from the construction. And then when everything gets finally restored, they install the mailboxes. So they'll eliminate the temporary box location and put in the permanent back end. So. Does that answer the question? Yeah.
I'm in the process of having a house tore down. Can I get everything on the hook right away instead of going back in there and tearing up a brand new road?
So, can you repeat the question?
Tearing down a house on Bloedel,
Okay.
getting ready. So can we, under this project, can we just have it all disconnected, or are we gonna have to go back in there and tear up a brand new road?
So you would want service restored back to that, so
Nope,
Nope.
done. Haven't had water there in 30 years.
Okay.
Been turned off.
Yeah, I mean, if it,
We probably will still stub.
we
In
probably
the
still put
lateral?
laterals there, but just in case in the future, again, 30
Otherwise-
years from now. you want
Otherwise,
to-
they'll have to cut back into the road.
Yeah.
When, if anyone were to buy that property down the road and want to build something on it, we don't know. But to prevent cutting into the road, we usually will stub it out, I guess.
Yeah,
But when was the time frame for this? Or I guess we can talk afterwards if you want.
Probably another year or so. Prices will high to tear it down right now.
Okay.
And they gotta do the same thing, you're already digging a hole and disconnect it, right, only be done.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have to necessarily reconnect, but we'd still probably put laterals back in so that in the future, if somebody were to buy the lot and want to build on it, they would have access to water and sewer there.
Yeah, if I can get the address at the end, that'd be great. Other questions?
What about, is there a curb on both sides of the road?
No, we'd be, I guess there was a photo, it's just concrete, like 24-inch concrete shoulder. It's essentially to help hold the asphalt. Over time, that asphalt edge kind of ravels away and breaks off. So this is to help stabilize that road pavement.
I got a gravel driveway there, who dictates how wide, you gonna put an apron in there or what?
Yeah, so the plan was to put aprons back in, yeah.
On a gravel driveway?
They would be some kind of paved, I guess, I was thinking concrete, but I mean, they could be asphalt as well.
Are you on the north or south side of the road?
1819 Bloedel.
So you're on the south side, so we could just leave that, I guess, if you're looking to tear down the house and have it be a vacant property. Yeah, I guess that'd be something to look into.
There's gonna be a big garage and everything there. So who dictates how wide the driveway can be?
So we try to put widths back as what they are. So if your opening, say, is 20 feet, you'd get a 20-foot driveway back.
Yeah, the driveways that are drawn in here are trying to match what's there. If there was like an excessively wide driveway, one or two of those might have shrunk up a little bit. But other than that, yeah, try to put them back in the way that they were. I think I tried to give, like, some were even narrower than, I think it was 12 feet, so I gave you 12 feet. If you want it less than that, that can happen. I think our minimum for code was 12.
So going back to the wells again.
Yep.
When they are merged, are we seeing an increase on our water bills? Because, you know, they have been jacked up again, it seemed like, and now it's like, because of all this, are we gonna get an increase again?
So I think it's been 2 years since we had a water rate increase. And right now, after 2025, our water utility seems to be fine with its cash flow. So, you know, ideally, we wouldn't see a big increase. We did get some, you know, we have a well project currently finishing up, and we have another one, a different well, that will be getting iron manganese treatment at that site this coming summer. That has a safe drinking water loan with some principal forgiveness. And again, that doesn't look like it necessarily will have a big impact, if any, to the water rates. So I would never say never, but I don't see it as being you know, we might still need a 4, 5, 6% increase sometime in the next, you know, 3-4 years, but it's not going to be a 50% increase or 100% increase like other communities have had in recent years with some of their treatment plant updates. We have 7 wells that supply the main system here. So these are 2 of the 7. And they're, like I said, they're off right now, but we will look to put them back on. And as we look at our rates and we look at our borrowing and how all that impacts the utility customers, the goal is to not just do projects to do projects, right? It's to make sure that they are warranted, that they are needed. We are regulated by the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin, who reviews our water rates every year to make sure that we're not making an exorbitant amount of money off of the rates. And at the same time, if a utility is losing money for 3 consecutive years, they make you put in a rate increase because you shouldn't be losing money, you know, every year. So I guess long story short, I don't have a great answer. I don't believe it will make a large increase that would be like, oh, this is, you know, your water bill is going to go from, you know, $50 for water a quarter to $100 a quarter. But you know, you may see 55, 60 years down the line. You know, and your water bill is a combination of water, sewer, and stormwater. So the water portion is probably 40% of that total quarterly bill. But again, you know, I hear people say they don't drink the water or it's staining fixtures. So, you know, that's all part of it too. There's a cost to, you know, always having to buy bottled water or, you know, cleaning products and some of those other things. So we try to make sure that we are giving you a quality product that you can consume.
Are you guys gonna put the water line in there a little deeper than it is now? Because it's been years ago, because I've been in this neighborhood all my life. And I know when you first put water and sewer in, and it was a little shallow, so everybody in Willow, Cherry, you name them, they were all freezing up, because I get a letter every year.
Yep. Yeah, so we'll also make sure, yeah, we bury those and, you know, we go through our freeze up lists to make sure that the people we're connecting to get, you know, are below the frost line. I think, again, 60 years ago, 6 feet in the ground was good. And now, you know, we try to go 7.5 feet.
7.5 top pipe, yeah.
Yeah, so 7.5 to top of pipe, so.
You mentioned the road, the right away or whatever was 50 feet. So if we want to get approximate location, we just measure 25 feet from the center of the road then, that's what we're at.
Bloedel's not really, the street isn't really centered.
Sent me a letter saying it was 35 feet in from the center of the street into your property is 35 feet. That's what they sent me a letter. The village did.
Are you talking about when we did the survey?
No, this was, well, maybe a year before. When I talked to the kid that did the survey, and they sent me a letter saying, you guys own from the center of the street 35 feet in.
Yeah.
I wish you'd cut that part of my lawn, but I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm trying to see if the power poles are on here. So a lot of times the power lines or utility boxes get put almost right on the lot lines.
yeah, the only real way to determine where it would be, there should be usually it's a hollow 1-inch steel pipe in your corners. There should be some reference point there. Sometimes they get taken out over the years.
The poles by mine are about 1.5 feet inside of the marker.
Okay.
I know mine now, I know where both of mine,
Okay,
all of them, I should say.
yeah, so majority of the utilities, like overhead lines, those are within the right of way. But they do try to hug the back of the line, so they're probably as close as they can get without being on private property, because if they come on private property, they need an easement for that to be on your property for that,
You
so.
got the trees down, you just cut them down, right? I don't have to pay for it, right?
Correct.
I got a big oak tree, it's the biggest one on that street. It looks like a giant slingshot.
There's some big trees.
They got power lines running through it, so you guys send the guys over every other year.
We were just looking at that one.
Yeah, I think we were looking at that one earlier today.
I don't have a problem with you guys cutting it down, you know, I mean, I just, the fact that I just.
Yeah, that doesn't come back to the homeowner at all. If they're in the right of way, that's our problem to deal with it.
It
So,
wasn't as close to the road when it first started, because our road was narrower back in the day.
oh, yeah. Yeah, so, and everyone that drives that, I mean, the pavement is well past its life expectancy, and with the utilities on top of it, that's why we're doing a full reconstruct.
Just for clarification, that big tree I got, if you guys seen it, you said, right on the east side of that tree, there's 2 culverts in the ground. That the guys in Weston years ago, that was their storm sewer for our property. They're end on end. And they took the cover off about 7, 8 years, 10 years ago, maybe more. Filled it all up. Is that gonna bother you guys when you're digging?
They did end up removing it.
If it's in the way, it'll get taken off.
Yeah.
You can't see it now.
Sure,
Right.
yeah.
They did a good job of covering it up.
Yeah,
So approximately how far in is that sidewalk gonna go to the north? Like, how much property will I lose on the north side? to the inside of the sidewalk to the north?
So the sidewalk will be in the right of way, so, yeah,
It's a
and
5 foot sidewalk.
it's a 5 foot wide sidewalk and
And is there grass between the sidewalk and the curb?
yeah,
Yeah, so between the metal, or I'm sorry, it's just the concrete shoulder there on the road
Okay,
and the sidewalk, there's, I think it's like 7.25 feet of green space that'll be swaled to hold the water. What are you looking for, Michael?
I was gonna grab. Yeah. Otherwise, if you guys, the neighborhood kind of right across from Weston Elementary School here, that's where this is from.
okay.
So this is, so this area here gets filled in with this is grass, this is kind of the road, asphalt or a concrete shoulder. This becomes grass, then this is the sidewalk, then the rest of the yard. If you go down Camp Phillips here and you look at East Jelnik Avenue, that one has a multi-use path on it, but it's kind of a similar concept. There's the road, a grass swale strip, and then the asphalt path. Behind Pick and Save, there's a neighborhood off of Ross that connects over. That's kind of the same concept where it's sidewalk, kind of the grass drainage area, and then the roadway. So there's several of those in the village where
And who's responsible for keeping the sidewalk clean?
that would be the adjacent resident.
The resident, not the village?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so that.
Hey, guys, we still got people asking questions back here. We can. Yep. If you have specific property questions, we can address those, but if you have general questions that it would be good for everybody to hear, I guess that's what we want to try to, yes.
All right, he asked the question before as far as if the residents there would not want the sidewalk. You guys mentioned going to a board meeting. I didn't catch when that meeting is.
So we have
So if this group wants to go, when would they show up?
So we have a board meeting the third Monday of every month.
Okay.
So, let me get, was that March 16th is the next one?
6 p.m.
At 6 p.m. Otherwise, there'd be one on April 20th at 6 p.m., May 18th at 6 p.m. So if there is, a neighborhood effort where you wanted to bring that to our attention, Isaac's contact information is up there. I think he had in the letter. You can email that to him, let him know, hey, we want to attend, and we can put that on there as well.
There's a cutoff date when you will have to be done by. I mean, if you're starting in even April, May, that would need to be done probably at the March meeting, right?
As I said, the last project where residents petitioned to have sidewalk removed, I think that was probably done in June. Like I said, the roadway gets built, utilities first. So sidewalk is one of the last things that goes in. And as if you don't design with it in, it is really hard to fit it in sometimes afterwards because you're trying to match driveway grades and street grades and, but if it were to be removed, it's easy enough to just make that grass and it's not concrete and so.
Talking about sidewalks, on some letter here, they're talking about replacing that sidewalk that runs between Bloedel and Newburgh, kind of, in part. It's not anything wrong with that sidewalk, it's not like thousands of people using it, nothing wrong with it. Why do you want to waste taxpayers' money to replace it when it doesn't need to be replaced?
The reason it would get replaced is because that's where the water line from the well on Newport would have its water line run over to Bloedel Avenue.
So you gotta dig it.
So we'd have to dig it up anyways, or the alternative was we could see if somebody would want to drill that water line in and see what the cost difference is. So we likely will bid it as optional to either drill it or dig it or open trench it, but
You gotta dig it, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought it was just, replace it because we want to replace it.
No, honestly, we don't try to waste our money. We get very, we get funding to redo these projects, so we want to make sure we do it right and we're maximizing the benefit to the community with every dollar we get. Honestly, Isaac is new to the village. He's been here about a year. Before that, he was a private consultant and we hired him to, as a consultant to design a lot of projects here in the village of Weston, where we paid a consultant fee, which is unfortunately maybe for him more than what he makes right now. So, so we are doing everything we can on the public works side, the engineering side here to keep our costs as low as we can while still improving our infrastructure and updating our infrastructure. People always say, why do you have to do this? We have 120 miles of roadway in the village. We have 100+ miles of water main, sewer main. If we don't at least do about 1 mile to 2 miles a year, eventually we fall behind. And now you're looking at having to do 3-4 miles a year, 5 miles. And that's when the costs really start hitting because it becomes a lot more expensive and 2 people, can't do it as staff to keep up with that workload. So then you are hiring outside consultants a lot more and doing a lot more work. So we're trying to work towards a nice kind of sustainable plan that, once every 50, 60 years, we're in a neighborhood, we reconstruct it and we let it be for the next 60 years. And, it's not a huge shock to tax rates, utility rates.
The only exception to the sidewalk part is if we're doing any kind of, not even this level of improvement to the roadway, if we are, let's say, milling out the asphalt, so we take out a couple inches of the asphalt, not even all of it, and put new asphalt on top of that, we're required by federal regulations to update the ramps. So where the sidewalk meets the road, a lot of those are put in, you've probably seen them. They come in really tight. They're kind of treacherous, even for anyone if anyone were in a wheelchair or even on any kind of support, stabilizing support, it would be really difficult to get through these. So we're required when we do any kind of improvements to the roadway to also, at least at minimum, update the ramps that tie into the road.
Just build a sidewalk a little higher up towards Newburgh. So down in the spring, half that is underwater.
Oh, that's good to know.
That's good to know.
So this might not have anything to do with any of it, but because everything would be ripped up, could this be the time, or how does one go about getting like some signs for slowing down for kids? Because like across the street from where we are, there is a bunch of kids that all hang out playing, which is great. It's fun to see them out there. But there are some cars that go whipping down that road. And it is just like one of these times I'm just waiting for one of them to get hit.
Agreed.
And I have stopped my car many times and I've hollered at the kids, you guys go on the grass, go play over, because I could just see it happening. And because it's ripped up, can we get something like that on each end or something to say, hey, there's kids?
It's mainly the high school kids working in the garage down in the end on the south side. It is, that's where they're coming from.
I
They're
mean,
working on the cars
honest
down
to
there. And
God.
they're having fun with school, but they won't, then they do their modifications. They want to run out and test them out. And we get cars going 40, 50 miles an hour down that, up and down that road in the evening.
And these are littler kids. I mean,
I did not know that.
We appreciate you bringing that up because we'll actually dispatch Mountain Bay Metro to come out. We've had that issue in other neighborhoods. It does tend to be someone that's local, right? That's in that neighborhood. This isn't a cut through street, right? You're not utilizing this street to get to another section. Likely you live in that neighborhood or on that street. And we've had then the officers have made a ticket and that's improved. The children at play signs are not allowed by DOT standards, but what we've done as a village is we've actually produced door hangers that say there are children in the neighborhood and we just would like you to pay a little bit more attention while you're going through. And we've had really good luck up up off of Sandy, in that area where neighbors have purchased those signs. Michael always says they look like a turtle. And there's a neighbor advocate that puts it in their yard and it just draws your attention that there are children. So we've had this conversation quite a lot at our community life and public safety meeting, which is why we did the door hangers so neighbors can take them and just make sure that their neighbors are seeing that there are children in the neighborhood. I mean, if you're saying there's these families, what another great reason to have sidewalks in the neighborhood. They're clearly walking to each other's houses, they're walking to school, they're walking to Target. But I can get some of those door hangers and then I will have Mountain Bay, I'll dispatch them tomorrow. I'll ask them to take a look in that
I mean,
neighborhood.
they did have that white machine that's,
Yep.
you know, that, but, you know, again, I've already been if I've been out working in my yard, they probably think, what a bag, but I've gone, like, slow down or something, because they go whipping, and all I'm thinking about is those kids, maybe they run after a football or something, and then it's too late at that time.
It's more in the summertime, in the evenings.
Yeah, when they're riding their bikes
Yeah,
and stuff
that,
like
it
that,
just- it gets
and
pretty
there's
bad
an
some days.
open area next to this house where the kids, you know, do play and stuff, which again, it's great, it's good to see. But it's scary.
Mhm.
I wouldn't wanna be the parent getting that call.
No, so exact same situation happened later last fall. We notified police that they're aware of it. They made sure that they ran a patrol around that street. They caught the individual that was speeding. I want to say it was like an 80 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. And there was an individual on that street that brought it to our attention because we weren't aware. And she was concerned because there are kids on that street that were going down their driveway to the road and they were, you know, playing. There's no pedestrian accommodations at all on that street. They got deep ditches. But yeah, so police went down there, they ticketed that individual and they're still patrolling it, but they haven't witnessed anything since then. So it's more enforcement to try to get them, but educating us on where these are, that helps. Otherwise, we don't know until unfortunately someone gets hit, which we don't want. So I appreciate you telling us that, because we'll bring that to PD's attention. Other questions?
All right, I could probably hang out here. Ike can be over there, and if you want to see anything, or like I said, there's a circle with an X. That's probably a tree that we kind of already identified as being in limbo, and go from there.